She's the manipulator. She's the liar. She put you in this spot. She did this to your brother.
I imagine a warm bath sounds just like, it's just what it sounds like, right? You got him, you took him to the bath, you brew a warm bath for him, and you put him in the bathtub, right?
Yes, sir. You have to think about it like this, right? She's a grown adult. And if she sees that, that's not all on you, right?
You look like that when you put him in the bathtub?
On July 6, 2022, police were called to a home in Norton Shores, Michigan, where they found 15-year-old Timothy Ferguson unresponsive. As the detectives made their way to Timothy's lifeless body in the basement, they encountered the elder brother, 20-year-old Paul Ferguson, and the grieving mother, Shanda Vander Ark.
I'm Officer Stefanich. Right now we got some people coming over to talk to you, okay? You have another son inside the house?
I have two. Yeah.
Are they sleeping still right now?
One of them is, yeah. The 20-year-old's awake.
He's 20?
No, the 20-year-old's awake.
Okay.
To make sense of what she's about to say, we have to note that Timothy looked abnormally skinny when he was found. It's as if he had been starving for days. But the real interesting fact here is that after she confirmed the presence of her 20-year-old, she immediately brought up this fact.
He's been wearing really loose clothes the last couple of weeks.
He's really skinny.
He's really skinny, and I didn't notice till this morning because he wouldn't, I asked him if he's okay, and he would not answer me. He's 15. He's been...
He has autism?
Yeah.
Like a high functioning?
Yeah. I had no clue how bad he was. Oh my God. Like I said, he did this back in, my husband's stroke was January 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So he did this back in, I don't know, second week of January for almost 3 weeks. And then he ate something last night. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh my God. He said it's okay. And then...
Do you have other family here in town?
Well, in West Olive, but they're not answering.
Yeah.
My father-in-law's an attorney.
Best thing to do is surround yourself with family. Help you get, because right now you're going through it by yourself, and you get overwhelmed.
I have no idea. How could I have missed that? He's been wearing baggy. I mean, he's wearing a hoodie for crying out loud, and I just didn't. His face didn't look like that. What the heck?
Keep in mind that the police didn't even begin to question his skinny appearance, yet she cried out an explanation.
That's why I asked him to eat last night, because his face started looking a little thin. I'm like, okay, enough. And he wouldn't show. I'm like, let me see. Hold your shirt up. And he wouldn't hold his shirt up. He wouldn't do anything.
Did he get real skinny last time too?
Yes.
And he goes to school and everything he was?
I've been homeschooling him online because it's high functioning. He's just done better at it. I can show you his grade report online. I've got all it's online.
Okay. Is he doing okay?
Yeah, he was failing math, which is not unusual, but he's passing everything else.
So what was the last time he ate, you think?
Last night. No. Gabriel, keep him up there. He ate toast.
There's two. There's a 7-year-old and a 20-year-old.
The 7-year-old was asleep. I guess he's not now.
At this point, the primary occupants of the house, and the ones who made the gruesome discovery, were Shanda and Paul. Also present was Gabriel, a 7-year-old boy who was technically a stepbrother. But before Shanda veers off into explanations and justifications, it is crucial to hear her side of the story first.
So you heard him fall.
Yeah.
That woke you up?
Yeah.
And you went down there and he was...
And I helped him up. I asked him if he wanted something to eat, because the first time I noticed anything on even his face was last night. And he said, no, I'm not hungry. I said, did you hit your head? And then I checked his head to make sure he didn't have anything. I noticed he has some scratches on his face. I'm like, are you okay? No, I'm fine. And then I watched him get back up on his bed. And then I went back upstairs. And then I woke up and I wanted to check on him this morning when I was getting ready for work. So I went down there and I said something. I didn't see him wake up, and I shook him and didn't respond.
Was he on the bed when you came down there?
Yes.
How old is he?
15. He'll be 16 in August.
Okay.
But his dad texted me last May and said, I can't handle him anymore. I have to send him to live with you. And I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Why was that? What did he do that?
He was lying to him. He was destroying things.
Is he hard to deal with?
I don't think so, but I'm stricter than his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that, I mean, he's the lying's been a problem. But nothing major.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
No. He's
All teenagers.
He's tripped down the stairs a couple of times, like just half the flight. And then later he came back to me, admitted he did it intentionally. But I've asked him, I'm like, you're trying to hurt yourself? He's like, no, I just wanted to see what would happen. That's the way, a lot of times, he wants to see what would happen if he does stuff.
In case that was a little fast, she said that his father, Adam, literally kicked him out of the house because he was lying. For now, let's just remember this, as these facts will build a rapport on exactly who we're dealing with here.
You want to go check on the other kid?
Yeah, you can do that for sure.
I know my 20-year-old's got my 7-year-old, but still.
No, that's.
Hey. Paul. You okay up here? I'm sorry, Splutter Joe. I'm sorry.
From this point on, you will not only witness a change in line of questioning, but also subtle hints of the kind of attitude that Shanda had with her kids. Pay close attention here.
I knew I should have made him eat, but he just was. Did you notice it was covering up with his clothing? You didn't notice, never mind. I love you, dear, but you never noticed it.
Do you have a picture of him before he started losing weight?
Yeah.
Hey, have you been talking to him at all recently?
I talked to him yesterday morning to get him up.
Right basically when we started.
Okay, so how long ago was that?
Did you know that he was in this hunger strike?
I think did I tell you or not? I don't know if I did or not.
I don't think you did.
Because he's skin and bone.
I know, and I just, how did he?
He's really.
Well, he doesn't communicate with him hardly at all. Like, they say hi and they don't. Yeah, he's.
Are you guys full brothers or half brothers?
They're full. The only half is the one that's in there.
Okay. When was the last time you talked to Tim?
Yesterday morning when I was getting him up.
No, yesterday afternoon before you left for work. Before I picked you up and took you to work because your e-bike tire flat. You talked to him then.
Yeah. I got off of work at 1 this morning.
Has he talked to you recently about his problems at all, or what he's dealing with?
No, he never said any of the word to me.
He really talks at all.
Did you guys have normal conversations?
I think the last time we did was before all of this happened. After that,
They literally, because he works a lot and they didn't talk.
Yeah.
And sometimes brothers will tell each other what
That's true.
they're not willing to tell their parents.
Why you went on hunger strike? I mean, assuming it's.
He didn't even know anything about it, he said, so.
Notice how the mother lingered around for the officer's questions with Paul. There were some questions which she didn't even let him answer. This is a telltale sign that she doesn't want him to slip up on any fact that could potentially incriminate her. Afterward, the police request her permission to search the home, to which she denies. In a normal situation, this refusal would mean nothing, since they have enough grounds to get a search warrant anyway. But even if it wasn't, there were so many disturbing features in the house that it would have demanded a search warrant. In fact, just after a simple search of the house and the phones, the officers had more than enough evidence to do this the very next day.
All right, you're going to be charged with right now. I believe it's the first or second degree. So it is a felony. So you won't be able to get out of jail until you see the judge.
This charge came almost immediately after the search and also an ME report which indicated hints of abuse. But to get the full picture of this situation, the detectives decided to bring in Paul Ferguson for an interview. In the house, his questioning was shadowed by Shanda, but this time he is given complete privacy to expose what really happened to Timothy.
I know that night Timothy did eat because we had pizza. He had 3 slices.
Hold on, I want to stop you for just a second. Because,
sorry.
That's okay. I don't want to talk anything specific about the case just yet. Since the police showed up at your house and they brought you down here, I want to provide you some rights before we talk about that sort of thing. What I do want you to know, though, is that we went through the phones, okay? Okay. And we're beginning to go through the phones, and there's a lot of evidence in the phones, and I know that you're kind of aware of communication between yourself and your mother. Yes. And those sort of things, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. Yeah. But, I mean, certainly, those are very serious things that you guys are talking about. Yeah. And, I mean, from what I saw, it sounds like you're compassionate and that you cared about him, and you sent some pictures that were like, he's looking too skinny and we need to feed him. And, you know, so sometimes you got frustrated, but at the end of the day, you kept coming back to Carrie. But the end result of that, he passed away, right? And he passed away from not eating food.
Detective Ryan Pesca sets an expectation beforehand that he has in front of him the text chain between Paul and Shanda, which will not only cross-check Paul's story, but also expose the dark realities that Timothy went through.
I mean, there's clearly a lot of messages about stuff that you guys are doing with him, about what he's eating, about restricting his food. How did that all work? Like, what was he allowed to eat?
We stopped the food restrictions recently because we had noticed this then. We wanted to get that back on. We didn't want any of this. We never wanted him to be injured or hurt. I loved him so much.
Yeah, I can tell that. I can certainly tell that. When you say we, you're talking about your mother.
Yes, she loved him. We wanted what's best. Yeah. The thing is, he was stuck in the past.
Okay. So you stopped the food restriction. When did that kind of happen? Like, ballpark that for me.
2 weeks, approximately. We were hoping that we could get enough where it would be safe, and then we could continue to add it back to where we wouldn't have to worry, and we could.
What were the restrictions?
We made sure that it was still something that gave him enough calories and everything. It was rice or bread, and like I said last week, he got pizza.
Okay. What were they in place for, like, in the first place?
Sneaking food over and over and over. We've tried everything. We were nice. We tried different consequences, but he just couldn't never listen.
What were some of the other types of consequences? Like prior to, like, are we talking, like...
We did take away his devices. Okay. Because that was also because he wouldn't stay on his school sites and would just go and try and play games or watch YouTube.
Okay.
The very first thing that the detective jumped into were the food restrictions. According to Paul, Timothy would sneak upstairs behind their back. Most of the times it would be to the kitchen to either get something to eat or to the computer or tablet to watch YouTube, which, if he did, would be taking advantage of Paul. The real shocking part in this whole situation is the kind of food he was eating as part of this restriction. According to the text, he was given 1 piece of bread, and that it was all he's getting unless he does well on his schoolwork. In reality, this was always a one-sided threat, but more on that later.
Yeah. Were you able to have a conversation with him like you and I are having, like a back and forth conversation, or he wasn't able to talk like that?
He could talk, but the thing is that it would mostly be hard to understand.
Okay.
Because of the speech impairment, I think it's called. I don't know what that word is.
Speech impairment?
Yeah, there we go. He was in therapy for that and the motor.
When you up here?
No, in Oklahoma.
Do you know of him being in any therapy or anything up here?
No.
Okay. Do you know if you ever went to the doctor at all?
Here? No, honestly, we never, until, I don't know, we managed, since we stopped the last hunger strike and managed to get him back to a safe weight, we were hoping and praying that he wouldn't need any sort of assistance at that point, which he didn't. He was fine. But then this whole ordeal happened, and I honestly feel like we should have taken him to the doctor sooner. We could have done something, but with all this that happened, it's just...
Yeah. Well, I mean, how long ago do you think you probably should have taken him to the doctor?
Honestly, if I'm going to be honest, I'd say the day after the divorce. We got the message about the divorce.
Paul has described Timothy as an outdoor school-going boy back in Oklahoma, but in Norton Shores, he has been a homeschooled, hunger-striking bedwetter with restrictions. It's really peculiar why all that changed so drastically. Timothy went from looking like this to looking like this on June 13, 2022, nearly a month before his demise. This picture was taken and sent by Paul as he described his baby brother as bone thin. In one other picture, Paul takes a picture of his legs and writes, "No wonder he's hardly capable of standing." These two pictures are the point of contention, which compels the detectives to believe that Paul was secretly in on it.
I saw on your phone that you had sent a couple of pictures to your mom.
Yes.
Pretty skinny, and you said, hey, he's nothing but skin. Like,
yeah, I was very concerned. It just...
what do you think then? Maybe would have been a good time to take him to the doctor, or?
Yeah, honestly, that probably would have been one too. I don't know.
And then you sent a picture of like his legs that were just basically gone, right? So
yeah.
No wonder he can't stand, or something along the lines.
Yeah, but the thing is, before yesterday, and I think the day before, he could walk.
Yeah.
He might need a little support every so often, like he put his hand against the wall or grab the rail of the stairs. But after a couple of seconds, he'd let go and be fine.
Okay.
It was never anything major.
Yeah. So we're talking, today's the 7th, yesterday, the 6th. What day are we talking about the last time he was really kind of talking outside the morning room?
The 5th. He talked some in the morning. He was responsive.
Yeah.
That much I know.
What's the deal with the photograph in the bathtub of his face? Like zoomed in on his face?
He had been taking a bath.
Okay.
And I went in there to check on him at one point, and he's just kind of laying there. I'm like, "Bud, you okay?" He didn't respond, but he was looking around, so and he was breathing. I know that much.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So at that time, but he wasn't talking at that time.
No, and it started to concern me. I'm not sure if I texted Mama about it or not.
Well, you sent a picture to her.
Yeah, I probably should have said something about the ER at that point, though.
Well, certainly
it's so stupid.
You have to think about it like this, right? She's a grown adult, and if she sees that, that's not all on you, right?
It's not just that Timothy was getting weaker and weaker, but it's that Paul noticed this way earlier. And in case you're wondering, Shanda didn't just leave the message with the pictures on scene. She responded by telling Paul to give him bread, please, and give PB sandwiches and water. This was an alarming level of bone thin, and instead of rushing him to the ER, she ups the diet from dry bread to peanut butter sandwiches. As the detective reads more and more of these messages, he realized that Timothy's weight loss wasn't just because of food restrictions. It was also because of the punishments.
How did we get to the point where we were at? Because, clearly where you guys got to, you said he was in the bath. That wasn't a nice, enjoyable bath, though, right? That was a punishment bath, right? That's a cold, ice-cold bath. And that's hard to understand.
I did wash that. I did tell him that if he wanted to wash up, and he did, but then in the middle of it, I think the whole laying there in a daze happened.
When he's getting these ice baths, I know there's numerous of them, right? Because I've read through the messages.
Yes.
How are you getting the ice? Like, where's it coming from?
We have an ice machine upstairs. It's not a lot. It can barely create any ice that's enough to make it a full-on.
But it's a cold bath.
Yeah.
And you're putting ice in there? Like, one dump of ice, 2 dumps?
One dump, yeah. It's maybe that much.
And then you're just running cold water, or what type of water?
The water doesn't exactly go cold.
Okay.
It says there's a cold button, but it's basically sort of lukewarm-ish.
How many times would you estimate that you guys gave cold baths as a punishment for not behaving or for whatever reason?
I think for punishments, it was, I don't exactly know the number, but it wasn't a lot.
Are we talking like 5, 10, 20, every day, every other day? Like any idea?
5.
Whose idea was it to give him a cold bath as a punishment?
It was my mother's.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it would be a punishment effective or not. I don't.
Do you remember the first time you guys did it? Like why? Like what did you do?
Not exactly.
What did you do on that day that you sent the photo that made you have to give him a cold bath?
I think it was that he not only peed but also pooped in bed, and my mother wasn't too happy because it absolutely reeked.
Yeah.
The ice bath is just one of the many appalling ways that Timothy was punished. According to the text messages, Paul was not only instructed to give Timothy ice-cold baths, he was ordered to dump more cold water and even force him to drink some. In some cases, Timothy would try to adjust his position in the bath just to get more comfortable, but that would tick off Shanda. She would order him to get his arm out from under his head so that he doesn't get comfortable like that. She also said he gets no padding whatsoever for his head and suggested Paul to turn his body slightly where his head would go over the side of the top backwards, which would be even less comfortable. And to further intensify this torture, she would ask Paul to splash water on him occasionally to keep him up and in pain. The irony here is that she thinks he's determined to be a pain. It ticked them both off just how he was getting used to the pain. And to make sure he will not win this, they intensified the punishments in the harshest way possible. It was also surprising that when the police first visited, Timothy wasn't just found in a basement room, but that this closet with a tarp on the ground was actually his bed.
When we talk about bed, I understand we've been to the house and get through all the messages.
Yeah.
Where did he sleep most of the nights? In that closet?
Yes.
When did that kind of start happening? Or had he always been staying there?
No, he hadn't always.
Okay. So, he's sleeping in the closet?
Yes. We made sure that it was cleaned. He had a mattress in there, but then he decided to rip off the cover, like a sort of plastic cover we put on there to keep it from getting smelly and disgusting. We always wanted what's best for him. I don't know.
So you guys decided to move him into the closet. There's an alarm on the door. What's that for?
When he would try and sneak, because if you notice, there was also one on the garage door. That was also because, there's some food in there that he would try and sneak. And it wasn't just that he was hungry at some point for those. It was that he wanted something sweet. At times he would be taking stuff that was going to have plans for food, actual food.
Yeah, I agree. I see exactly what you're saying.
And
when you talk about the bedroom being moved into that closet, is that your idea or is that your mom's idea?
that was my mother's. Yes.
And so how long do you think he was staying in that closet for?
Couple of weeks, maybe. I think we truly had started activating the alarm on the door every night after we had found that he would sneak out and get back up on.
Yeah.
At the end of every point, the detective asks if this was his idea or his mom's, to which he says the latter. But in reality, they were both in on it. With the ice baths and the closet bedroom, this was nothing short of inhuman. And to make all of this even worse, you're about to see Paul talk about the brutal extent of these so-called food restrictions and how they were able to keep track of it all.
So there's this restriction on food. He talked about bread. For how long was he just eating just bread?
A week or two.
What was he kind of eating before that?
We do ramen, sandwiches, And I think at some points we actually give him like a meal.
Why was it that he couldn't have meals? Because he was sneaking food?
A lot, yeah. We over and over and over. There would literally be times where I would be sitting on the couch playing. And then I'd look up and he's there grabbing something.
Yeah. And so, whose idea was it for him to just eat bread? Is that your idea?
No.
Whose idea was that?
My mother's.
Tell me about the hot sauce. I know that was used as both the punishment and it was put on the bread. Was it always on the bread?
Not always, no. But the thing is, it still hardly did anything for him. There would be times where it would do something for me because I'd accidentally rub my eye after I put it on there. It was ow.
Yeah. So you're putting, what dictates whether or not there's hot sauce on the bread that he's eating? What decides that?
I don't know. Whenever my mother told me to put hot sauce on it, I did. It was normally a thin layer to make sure that it wouldn't be too much. Because from what I know, the California Reaper is, 2,000 Scoville? Or 2 million Scoville?
What does that mean?
It's the hot sauce, or the heat index, basically.
Okay. And that's pretty high?
Very.
Where do these sauces come from?
I think it was either Amazon or Walmart apps.
Okay. Did you ever go to the store and buy anything?
No, we didn't ever.
Did you ever order any of those yourself? Or who was ordering the hot sauce?
My mother is, but she would ask if I could help her pay for it, which, like I said, she's been amazing. She's never demanded money.
Yeah. I guess I'll message that where she asks you.
So I knew that she wasn't just going, if I said it not that moment, she would have understood, unlike my father.
Yeah. So the hot sauce on bread, if you ever put hot sauce on bread, was it ever your own decision to put hot sauce on bread? No. Sometimes you were left in charge of the 2 kids, right?
Yes.
How often was that you were in charge?
Sometimes it was during the mornings where she would go to work, but...
So when mom's not there, is she monitoring the cameras? Is that what the cameras in the home are for?
Yes.
And how does she communicate with you?
Text. Via text.
From her phone to your phone? Or?
Yes.
Okay. And how does she communicate with the other kids?
Through the alarms, because they do have that dual way talking. But
so she can talk to them through the camera system
yes.
or the alarms?
Yeah. It's cameras, not alarms.
Okay.
The alarms don't have. Sorry.
You don't have to be sorry. You don't have to be sorry at all.
I can't.
So she's able to communicate with them that way. She's communicating with you via text.
This was one of the first and most appalling things that the police noted on their first visit. The thing that literally demanded a search warrant. Throughout the house, there were cameras, motion sensors, and alarms set in the most intimate places. There were cameras in the bathroom, motion sensors on the doors, and alarms which would trigger an alert on an app which Shanda and Paul had access to. When Shanda was at work, she would text Paul about these alerts, and even surveyed the house to see what Timothy was doing. She'd tell him that he will not outlast us, and that comes directly from me. And despite all the signs of weakness and pain, she'd convince Paul that he is still acting like he's staring straight ahead. And when we look at the text messages related to the hot sauce, we will find that she ordered Paul to force his mouth open and put some hot sauce in there, considering everything he's put us through. These are messages that Paul needs to be answerable for and be held accountable for.
I know that when we talked yesterday in front of your mom, she was lying about some stuff, right? I know that she's a good person. I'm not doubting that at all.
Yeah, we never wanted any of this.
But you also noticed, like I know, that some of the things that she was talking to us about was the truth, right? About, she said she didn't know there was a camera in the bathroom. But the fact of the matter is she asked you to put the camera in the bathroom, right? Didn't she send you a text message that says, make sure that the camera's in there and take the shower curtain down so I can see him? Didn't she ask you that the day before he passed away?
Yeah.
So we talked about some of that stuff. Remember how during the conversation I said, I know what this pepper's for, it's for punishment. And what did she say? She said, oh, I didn't know anything about that, right? Why do you think she's saying those things? Why do you think
She doesn't want to appear like a bad person. She doesn't want to be the bad guy in this. We never wanted any of this. We want him to be healthy. I know that for a fact. We should have been so much. I should have at least put my foot down on something.
Right.
But it's not that I'm afraid of her. I can't fear her because she's not the type to instill fear.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's also what caused him to sometimes lie about things as well. Was that he still had this fear of Dad, and then he thought she would be the same.
Yeah. That could very well be the case.
She's nothing like him. That much I know. She's like.
So you have the hot sauce. Tell me about the handcuffs. I know that once again, she took no blame for that, right? And who did she put it all on? She put it all on me. She said that was your idea and that those were yours and that you did those things. But I think that's not the truth from what I read on here. What's the real truth on that?
For context, during the search of the house, the police found handcuffs and zip ties in the room. And before we get into what atrocities the mother-son duo were doing with those, we'll let Paul explain. But before we do, if you're finding this video interesting so far, then make sure to subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. Now, back to the video.
We would have him against the wall at some points, and he would try to move. And at one point, we'd actually put motion sensors on him to stop that. But
On him himself.
yeah, like they were vibrator. They would sense any sort of vibrations.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he'd learned to trick them by moving so slow, or they'd be on his door and they'd be moving so slow that it wouldn't set it off, so you could get away with stuff.
Okay.
So
you're saying standing still, was that like a punishment that he was forced to stand
on the wall, yeah, against the wall, we was having.
Was that regular that he had to do that? Like how often was he having to stand against the wall?
Since 2 weeks ago, it wasn't very often.
Okay. Just because he couldn't physically stand against the wall anymore?
No, it was, I guess it just didn't work because if he wouldn't set it off when he was against the wall, he would then, like, it'd be on a belt around him. He'd stuff it in his pocket and then just sit down on the ground or lay down and stay like that.
So he was punished by trying to make him stand, but then he would lay down. Did you guys ever wake him up on purpose because he wasn't supposed to be sleeping?
Yeah, and we also know one thing about him was that if he slept during the day, he was going to be up all night.
What about handcuffs or zip ties? What did you guys use those for?
The zip ties were either to fasten the vibrational arms to his belt during the day,
Yeah.
or to put it on his wrist, not too tight and I would make sure, after the first time we did it, I would make sure to cut off the end of the zip ties because I had them loose. And then he decided to tighten them to where they were nearly cutting off circulation.
Yeah.
So after that point, I myself, when I was told to put him into the zip ties, I'd grab a pair of scissors and snip off the ends to make sure that he couldn't tighten it to where it was cutting anything off.
Were you guys ever zip tying his hands together?
His hands, I think we did once when we had a pair of them that the zip cuffs.
Oh,
but again, I cut those off to make sure that he wouldn't tighten them. Yeah, because
what was that for? Why would you use those on him?
normally we have him do this. It was something that I'm not sure if it was my father or my mother back when they were together, but when we were put in timeout, we'd be told to do this. And so sometimes though, he'd try and do stuff like this, or just try and put his hands down or down by his side. So we do that to keep them.
Okay. Yeah. How long do you think you had those on for? How long are we talking? Is this for a couple hours, 8 hours, 10 hours?
Normally the maximum was 3.
Okay.
Just in case the atrocity wasn't clear, they used the handcuffs once or twice, and only because he had gotten so skinny that the handcuffs would just slip out. So instead of worrying about Tim's health like any sane mother or brother would, they got zip ties to punish him, which was to stand against a wall. This punishment was mentioned a bunch of times during the text chain, which shows just how regularly it happened. Shanda would order Paul to make Timothy put his nose against the wall dozens of times. All this was done to make sure that he slept well at night. The hot sauce on his privates, the ice baths, it was all a way to keep him up during the day so that he could sleep at night. Now, at this point, the detective has uncovered the lies and the punishments, or better yet, the torture that Timothy faced. The only thing left to find out now is what led up to Timothy's early demise.
So tell me what really happened in the morning then, because obviously what was told to us wasn't the truth. What really happened? When you guys, somebody found him, or
I woke up and I had been grabbing my shoes, and it was at that point that it basically all played out like we said. The whole morning thing was exact. He wasn't breathing in the closet. It was the closet though. We had to get him out of the closet to try and resuscitate.
So it's you and your mother who tried to get him out of the closet?
We did get him out.
Okay.
We tried to resuscitate.
Who noticed him first? You or
My mother.
Okay. Did she have asked you via text to check on him on the way up? That's not what happened. She said, "Hey, can you check on him on your way upstairs?" Do you remember that text message at all?
No.
Okay.
There might have been one that I didn't see, but
Okay. So you guys pull him out of the club.
we tried to resuscitate him. We gave him rescue breaths. His breath smelled horrible. I thought maybe he might have still been capable of being resuscitated, but his mouth was still wet.
Yeah. And so you guys, at that time, she decides that she's gonna lie to him and say that he was in the bunk bed. I don't understand.
I don't know. She doesn't want to seem like she's bad. That we weren't neglecting him. And even if that's what if it somehow ended up like that, it was never intentional.
At this point, the detective has heard just about everything dysfunctional about this case. After all the ice baths, the punishments, the food restrictions, and the untimely death of Timmy, Paul repeats that all this was not intentional, even though it was definitely intentional. That's something that Paul has to realize, that by doing nothing, he may count himself as one of the killers in this case.
What you're saying, I mean, if we talk, right, there's all these things where you're like, she didn't want to seem like this, she didn't want to seem like this, she didn't want to seem like this. Did you know that it all seems like that, right?
Yes,
it does. And he clearly was neglected because he died from it, right? The reality is that he was. That's why we're here talking today. So he was very much neglected. And the fact that, she had asked you to put hot sauce on his private parts.
She asked, but I never did. I never
did that?
No.
Okay. And she had asked you to put hot sauce directly into his mouth. Did you do that?
Yes.
Is that on the 5th, the day kind of leading up to all this stuff?
Yeah.
How much hot sauce did you put in there?
That.
And then whose idea was that to put that hot sauce in there?
Hers.
And what was the purpose of that?
Again, she thought the whole unresponsive was an act.
She thought it was an act, which very clearly it wasn't. Right?
Yeah.
Where is the hot sauce that he used? Is that the one that was in the bathroom, or is it a different one?
That was the one in the bathroom, yeah.
Okay. What other types of punishments did you guys have for him?
I know at one point that he was actually refusing to eat. We would give him his food and he would just be stubborn and sit there and just slowly. It was regular bread, nothing else on it. Just chow down to the point where it was basically he was trying to waste time. He could be upstairs.
Where did he spend most of his time?
In his room. We wouldn't make him stand. Sometimes we would have him kneeling, like on his knees, like this, facing one of the corners, but
What was that for? For punishment?
Yeah, I don't even know what it was for at this point. I'm not sure.
Where did he spend most of his time?
It was in that room.
I think the closet there?
Yeah, I think.
Now, in the past on this channel, we have seen criminals cop an insanity plea. But here, Paul is trying to portray his own baby brother as a mentally ill, destructive child in order to avoid any involvement. But the truth is, Paul was just as frustrated as his mom, maybe even more. Just a day before Timothy's death, we see this text from Paul saying that he's done, and I can't deal with him anymore. On that day, Timothy was subjected to one of his punishments, which was the ice bath, and the fact that he was not getting too bothered by it compelled Paul to say that he's doing this to tick us off and make us give up. And at this point, I'm ready to beat him within an inch of death and go to work. Later on that day, he texted that I'm not dealing with him for another second today, or I might snap. After which, Shanda took over.
When was that?
That's your brother.
Yeah.
That's June 13th, less than a month ago. You sent this picture to her, and you said, he's looking like a skeleton, we need to give him more food. But you guys didn't give him more food over the next couple weeks. You guys gave him less and more punishment, and less bread, and more bread with hot sauce. That's what really happened. You reached out to her and said, this is scary looking, right? You probably thought, he can barely walk. You sent a picture of his legs, right? You sent this picture of his legs to your mother, right here. You sent this to her. And what'd you say? Something along the lines of, no wonder he can barely stand up or walk. Look at that. And your mother, being smart and intelligent and the smartest woman in the room, she didn't do anything about that? Didn't think about taking him to the doctor? Didn't think about, we have to give him some more food, like seriously now? Instead, what do you think she did? She gave him less and more punishment. Until what? He ends up dead. And what did she tell the police? He was always wearing baggy clothes, so I didn't notice anything until last night. Another just blatant lie. Another blatant lie. If this was all an accident, why would she lie to us? If this was all an accident, why wouldn't she just say, we were having a really hard time with him, I thought he was okay. No, she knows that he looked like this, that he looked like this. Look at his face right there. That's not who your brother looked like, is it?
No.
He didn't look like that. Does that look like it? That looks like somebody in a casket that you see at a funeral. That's what that looks like. And it's sickening and disgusting. And you sent this picture to her too, didn't you? You sent that to her, didn't you?
Yeah.
You sent that to her on July 5th. Right before the day leading up to him being found dead. Does he look like he's okay right there?
No.
Why'd you send that picture?
I was concerned.
Yeah, once again, you're not the smartest person in the room and you're concerned. Did she do anything about it? No, you know what she said? He's gonna sleep in the bath all night tonight. He's sleeping in the bath all night tonight. The smartest woman in the room.
The bruises on him were not me. I know that much. If it was anywhere, it was here. And never, there was a spot here, but that was from when he was a child. I think, I'm not sure which parent it was, in his crib. He was laid there while his head was still fresh. Okay. And so that scar on the back of his head is...
That's an old scar.
Very, basically birth.
When was the last time you hit?
Probably the 5th, when I was trying to see if he would respond.
Okay, and where was that at?
That was while he was, I think, in the tub.
But where did you hit him at? Like on the side of his face?
Yeah.
Did you ever look to smack him, or what kind of hit?
It was sometimes this, and I think once or twice it was, it wasn't like full force, but it was like to try to see if he would respond.
Did you ever punch him in the head?
No.
Because there's some evidence that somebody hit him in the head pretty hard.
Where? Is his skull? Because I know that I would never try to actually injure him at those points.
What really happened? How did he get that injury in his head? Did you hit him once a little harder than you maybe wanted to? It's okay, man.
Yeah, I remember I kept trying to pick him up after I had gotten him out of the closet, and I think at one point he actually scratched where I pulled away, and he fell, and I think it happened several times, like he was trying to get out of my reach.
Yeah. When was kind of the last time you really hit his hard hard or something?
I think I was trying to get him into the bath for the ice bath thing. Yeah, he sort of, I thought he squirmed, but maybe it was something else. I don't know, but he slipped out of my hand and hit his head on the ground. But
what part of his head did he hit?
Was it the sides? I don't know the exact region, because by the time I heard the thud, I was literally about to turn around because I had to stop for a moment to fucking breathe. I was frustrated. I was just,
listen, let me tell you this.
I never wanted
Let me stop you
this.
first, okay? The injury to his head, that's not what killed him, okay?
Okay.
But what killed him was not eating. But when we talk about this injury to his head, I just need to know the truth of what really happened, because what you're telling me doesn't make a lot of sense. What really happened to his head? The medical people, there's a medical examiner comes through, that isn't what caused it, but that was there. They just noted that, so I'm just curious what really happened.
I don't know.
Was there like a hard punch or something when you were mad at him?
If I ever was smacking over the head, it was with an open palm. I never closed my fist.
Maybe like on this one day when you went?
No.
There's never one time where you hit him in the head?
No.
With a fist?
I would long to, but I would walk away, because I knew that if I did something like that, I would not only regret it, but if something like this had happened, that I'd never even been able to apologize.
Okay. So, I'm gonna step out for just a second. Okay? Do you need anything? You need to use the restroom? Do you need a drink of water?
Do you have something like a snack on?
Yeah, I'll try.
I have slight hypoglycemia problems.
So what type of snack are we talking? Like chips or a little, I don't know what's okay for you.
Really anything with chips. Maybe chips, yeah. Something with salt, too.
Shanda Vander Ark was charged with first-degree murder and first-degree child abuse. And just 5 days after the discovery, Paul did a Facebook Live to let everyone know the situation. And, as you will see, he clearly didn't care about his brother's untimely demise.
Hey everybody, just figured I'd send a quick check for y'all, but we're doing good right now. I just dozed off on the couch unintentionally, and I forgot to give a quick check for today, but yeah. Oh, when I can't actually get in contact with you guys, I'll probably post a quick check like this. For those of you who aren't aware, my little brother has passed away, and my mother is currently in the custody of, well, I'm not sure if it's a lot to deal with, but right now we're doing good. We're fine, but if I can't actually Facebook you guys live because I don't have my phone and I don't know how to access my stepfather's, I'll post a quick check to let you guys know everything that's going on. If you have any questions or anything, just comment them down below and I'll see if I can answer them in the next quick check. Just keep supporting and pray that the two of us get through this. Okay. I guess I don't really have much that I can say right now.
Paul Ferguson also faced charges of child abuse. The trial began in late 2023. and during her testimony, she displayed no signs of distress and defended herself. But that changed quickly when she was confronted with what she had done to the poor boy.
You testified that you gave Timothy a warm bath the night before he passed away, that last night, July 5th. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
That was the first time you told anybody connected to this case that you'd done that, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
You never told the police officers you did that, did you?
No, sir.
I imagine a warm bath sounds just what it sounds like, right? You got him, you took him to the bath, you drew a warm bath for him, and you put him in the bathtub, right?
Yes, sir.
This is hours before he dies, right?
Yes, sir.
You look like that when you put him in the bathtub?
I'm sorry.
Gotta make me all this.
What really sealed her fate is that her 20-year-old son, the one that she entrusted with her evil doings, testified against her, which was part of the plea deal he took.
At some point in time, was there a form of discipline introduced that involved you placing Timothy in a cold tub?
Yes.
And what was the mechanism for that? How did you do that?
Clog the tub, plug it, turn on the water, and take the ice that was in our ice maker upstairs and put it in, and have him get in.
Initially, how long was he supposed to sit in the cold water?
30 minutes.
30 minutes? And that, when we say cold water, we actually mean water with ice cubes in it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And how often, when did that start in relation to when Timothy died? If you remember.
I do not remember the exacts.
And do you know about how many times you did that up until the day before Timothy died?
Before the day that Timothy died?
The day before Timothy died. We'll get to that in just a moment, and I believe that.
3, then.
So you remember doing it 3 times before the day before Timothy died?
Yes.
And who would direct you to put him in the ice bath?
Shanda.
Was there some type of camera in the bathroom as well?
Yes, on the counter.
Was that camera monitored by somebody if you were in the bathtub or if you were in the bathroom with Timothy?
Shanda.
Were you instructed to stay in the bathroom with Timothy when he was in the tub?
Yes.
Why?
To ensure that he couldn't get comfortable or try to turn the water hot.
On that day, there was no mama. It was just Shanda versus Paul. The cameras in Timothy's basement, the same cameras that kept a watchful eye on him, recorded the night Timothy passed away. And at the last moment, the 2 protectors who were convinced he was faking realized that Timothy could endure their torture no more.
Yeah, what's wrong? Timothy?
We're sorry. So sorry, we're wrong?
No.
Oh my God.
Timothy?
Come on, buddy.
Timothy?
No, can't, this can't happen.
Timothy? Hey.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. I feel like it's okay.
Who's the best thing?
We're doing this part. We're doing this. Is it okay?
It's cold.
Yeah, I know it's cold, but he's not sick yet, so is it okay? Sit up, please. Please, come on.
Timothy?
You can open the door. Get all that to that. Come on, quick.
No. and it's still very, very high.
So I think I got more money.
Timothy, hey, hey,
Come on, buddy.
Timothy.
This is all right.
At that point, Shanda's whole world fell, as there was no hope in resuscitation. She had realized that with Timothy's lifeless body will come a series of questions she can't answer, and justifications she can't give. Despite the absence of a pulse, they were denying the reality that Timothy died.
Come on, baby, come on, buddy. Come on. Ah, this is cold. Come on, buddy. You should be able to put that out. Come on, buddy. Come on, baby. Get in your hand. Yeah, come on, buddy. Put it on there very quickly. Come on, buddy. Go. Next one, please. Come on. Yeah. Go. Come on, baby. No, I'm not. Now is not time. No, it's not. Here you go. No. You are here. Put it on. I just want to make it look like you didn't have it. I have to go on it now. Yeah. That's probably put on 100 sites. We will need.
Just minutes after hopeless resuscitation, the lies started to hatch. This shows just how evil Shanda was from the get-go. On December 15, 2023, the jury found Shanda Vander Ark guilty on both charges and sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Paul Ferguson was sentenced on February 28, 2024, receiving a sentence ranging from 30 to 100 years in prison for his role in the abuse. And I just want to say, as a father, this was one of the most difficult cases to cover. Because if you think about it, all of this only surfaced after his death. A pleasure that Shanda and Paul could never have given him before. She knew she couldn't take care of him, so instead, she turned him into this son that she never wanted, who ultimately and unjustly suffered until his very last days. Now, if you think this case was horrific, you need to check out my video on the BDSM torture house.